Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into the Suez Crisis of 1956. Now, this is the incredible story of a war that was actually won on the battlefield, but then completely lost with a single phone call. It's the moment the world's power structure was fundamentally rewritten, not by armies or bombs, but by the balance sheet.
So, let's set the stage. It's the mid-1950s, and if you looked at a map, the British Empire still seemed to rule the waves. It was this vast, sprawling network of territories, a symbol of global dominance that had stood for centuries. On the surface, Britain was still a titan.
And when a conflict did erupt over the Suez Canal, their military machine performed, flawlessly. Their highly trained paratroopers were winning every engagement, executing the mission with absolute precision. From a purely military point of view, it was a total, textbook success.
And that, right there, is the central mystery we're unpacking today. How could a clear military victory be so completely unraveled? Not on the battlefield, but by one phone call from an office thousands of miles away. The answer, as you'll see, changes how we have to think about global power. Forever.
Okay, so to really get how this happened, we've got to look past the military parades and that huge empire on the map. We need to pull back the curtain and examine the fragile economic reality that was hiding behind this powerful facade.
The Suez Canal, this thing wasn't just some strategic shipping lane for Britain. No, it was an existential pipeline. It carried 2/3 of the nation's oil. It was literally called the empire's windpipe. For Britain, controlling that canal meant controlling its own economic destiny.
But here's the hidden truth. The Second World War had left the empire financially shattered. There's a great phrase for it. To win, Britain had basically burned the furniture to heat the house. They'd liquidated their wealth, taken on massive, massive debt. The global power that everyone saw was just a front, and it was being maintained at an enormous cost. And this was their secret vulnerability. Think about the irony. While projecting this image of a global superpower, Britain was, in reality, the world's single biggest debtor nation. They were standing on a financial trapdoor, and it was just about to spring open. So, this incredibly fragile financial position leads to a colossal miscalculation. When their control of the Suez Canal was threatened, Britain reached for the tools of a bygone era. They cooked up a 19th century plot for a 20th century world.
So here's how it all kicked off. Egypt's President Nasser seized control of the canal. The British Prime Minister, Anthony Eden, sees this as a direct threat to that windpipe we talked about. So he responds with an old-world playbook, a secret conspiracy hatched with France and Israel to invade and retake the canal under the flimsy disguise of a peacekeeping mission.
And you know what? On the ground, everything went exactly according to plan. The invasion was swift, it was effective, the road to the Suez Canal was wide open. From a purely tactical standpoint, Britain and its allies had totally won.
And this, right here, is the crucial point. Britain was fighting one war, a classic 19th century fight over physical territory. But the real war, the one that actually mattered, was being fought on a completely different battlefield. This one was a war of currency reserves, of bond yields, of international finance. And on that battlefield, they were about to be ambushed.
And this brings us to that real battlefield. Because the United States was about to step out of the shadows and demonstrate what true superpower status really looked like in this new world order. It was going to be a financial takedown.
You see, President Eisenhower was absolutely furious. His own allies had launched a major war without even telling him, and he was terrified it would push the entire Arab world straight into the arms of the Soviet Union. So he didn't send in the Marines, he just picked up the phone and gave his Treasury Secretary this simple, devastating, two-word order.
This was the real invasion. America unleashed a coordinated financial assault. First, they started dumping the British pound on global markets, causing its value to crash. Then, when a panicked Britain went to the International Monetary Fund for an emergency loan to stop the bleeding, Washington just blocked the door. The message from the U.S. was crystal clear: retreat or face total economic collapse.
And Eisenhower was not bluffing. He drove the point home by refusing to send Britain and France emergency fuel supplies from the U.S., which pretty much left them stranded. This action showed the absolute totality of America's new economic dominance.
So what happens when a global power gets hit with that kind of overwhelming financial pressure?
Well, the result was swift, it was total, and it was a public humiliation. It was basically the equivalent of a nation's credit card being declined right there on the world stage. And this is the core takeaway, right here. The war was lost in the treasury, not in the desert. Britain was forced to accept a humiliating ceasefire. Their troops were literally halted in their tracks because their national savings were just evaporating at a rate of millions of dollars a day. Their superpower credit card had just been declined.
I mean, you can see the brutal efficiency of the American attack right here on this chart. Britain's currency reserves, the very foundation of its economic stability, went into absolute free fall. Within days, continuing the military operation became completely, financially impossible.
The political fallout was just as quick. Prime Minister Anthony Eden, the guy who architected the whole invasion, was forced to resign in disgrace. But his downfall wasn't just personal. It symbolized the collapse of an entire era of British global prestige.
You know, the fall of a prime minister was really just a symptom of a much, much larger shift. The Suez Crisis didn't just end a military campaign. It established a completely new set of rules for how global power worked.
The Suez Crisis was a global wake-up call. In just a matter of weeks, it became undeniably clear to everyone that the old European empires were finished as independent great powers. From that point on, Washington set the rules of the international order, and even its closest allies couldn't make a major move without American approval.
And this shift was made official very quickly. The Eisenhower Doctrine was basically America's public declaration that it was now the primary power broker in the Middle East. It was stepping into the vacuum left by Britain, mainly to counter the influence of the Soviet Union.
And this, really, is the fundamental timeless truth that was so brutally revealed by what happened in 1956. Economic sovereignty. That is the true foundation of power. Without it, even the most powerful military is just a mirage, an illusion that can be wiped away with a single phone call.
The Suez Crisis is such a stark reminder that power structures can look their absolute strongest right before they collapse under the cold, hard arithmetic of reality. And that leaves us with a really crucial question for our own time. What is the hidden architecture of power today?